What if you show up to your interview and it is ugly? What do you do? Well, in today's video, we will show you some lighting setups that you can do to shoot a cinematic, high quality looking interview in an ugly space. So we are in our studio. This is our video studio. It's literally a warehouse. So you show up and it's ugly. It is an ugly space. We've built out some sets. You know, we have our darker, more contrasty, moody set over here. We've got kind of a seat over here, and then we've got a podcast corner, and we've got just junk everywhere because we've been busy, we've been shooting. But we're gonna say we can't use any of these sets. You show up, you have a limited amount of time, you're probably just one person, like typically I show up and it's just me, or sometimes it's me and Cooper, but typically it's just me, and you've got to shoot your interview quick. What do we do and how do we get this thing set up? So we're gonna walk through making a high-end looking interview from showing up to a location that looks ugly. So there's 4 things that we look at for this. 1, the background. What's it gonna show up in the background? Number 2 is our lighting. We need to make sure that the lighting is nice. Number 3 is the audio. And number 4 is the actual camera settings, lens settings, all that kind of stuff that you're using to make your good looking shot. When we're looking at our background, 1, we've got a lot of stuff going on, but depth can be your friend. So the more depth you can have, so that means the distance you and your subject can be from walls is gonna be better, because you're gonna need to blur out the background. It's ugly, it doesn't look good. The blurrier we can make the background, or the more we can make that background disappear, that's gonna be better for this interview. So for me, looking at this and saying, I can't move anything. I can turn off lights, obviously, but I can't move anything. I'm gonna shoot this way. So we're actually gonna shoot back down this way, and the camera is actually gonna be set up over here somewhere. We'll figure out how we can finagle it through all of this, but we're gonna shoot back down towards this because this is a little more busy than it is down here. So I think we can eliminate this background a lot easier than we can eliminate this one. We're gonna put our person, our interviewee, on a stool. I like a stool because 1, you know where they're gonna be, they're not gonna wiggle around. And all I'm doing is trying to see where I can get the most depth from my camera. And so for here, it looks like I'm gonna be able to set my camera up back there and be able to shoot through and not have anything in the way. And so I'm gonna put them on a stool, so I know they're always going to have kind of the same height, and they're not gonna be slouching. More than likely, people are gonna be sitting up in a stool. They'll be talking a little more comfortable than if they're lounging in a chair. So currently, this is our interview look. I don't know what it looks like. I haven't looked through the camera, but I'm assuming it's pretty ugly still. Why? Because I am underneath these horrendous overhead lights that we have. It might look decent because I do have a high-powered light over here, and we also get a little bit of door window light over here, so it might look halfway decent, but everything's bright, it's really flat, there's no light being shaped. So number 2, we're gonna work on this lighting. If our camera angle is coming here, we're never gonna shoot talking directly to the camera. The interviewer is gonna be over here. So that means we're shooting to this side of the face. Our interview person is shooting or sitting here that they're communicating with. So that means our light source is gonna be over here, because we do want the shadow side of the face to the camera. What that's gonna do is give us a little more of a cinematic look. So that means camera 1, camera 2, interviewer, light. So that means our light source is gonna come from this side. Our whole thing is we want the least amount of light spill on the background. So the first one we're gonna use, we have it out here because you didn't have it in the studio. I am gonna move this. This is gonna be in my way, so I will move this. We're gonna use the Aperture 300X as our key light no matter what. And then we have a gridded softbox, your normal parabolic softbox that you see in every YouTube video. We're gonna use that first because it has a grid on it. It's gonna be nice and directional. Don't try this at home. It's sketchy. The good thing about this warehouse is we do have a lot of outlets, so we don't have to worry about it. But the good thing about this Aperture 300X is you can use V-mount batteries. So let's say you get into a place and there's no lights boxes, electrical outlets, you can go ahead and use a V-mount, we've got quite a setup going on here. We were using it for a live stream, so we've got to get this set up a little better. So because we are only using one light, that means that we're not going to have any additional light sources. So we need to try and have this light as close to the subject as possible. We're going to go right up above their face, about a 45-degree angle, and we're going to call that our key light for now. We're going to adjust it. We're going to also say this is our interviewer, and we're going to use our cameras over here. We're going to call our FX6 as our main camera, and then we're going to use this A7 IV as our B camera. I do like 2 cameras on our interview to make it 1, cinematic, and 2, you have multiple cuts, so if someone's talking and they stumble or mess up, you can cut from camera A to camera B and it looks seamless like it was meant to be there. Little problem, we got this sandbag, so we've got to go right below this little sandbag to make sure we can shoot through here, since we're not moving anything for this setting. Now we can kind of get our camera angle set up and then start working on shaping our lights. So lens choice on this, because we are in ugly location, we want to get rid of as much of the background. I'm going to choose something that I typically would not choose for an A camera because I like to shoot a little wider. But we need to try and blur it as much as possible, so we're going to get some compression. So we're going to shoot on the 50 1.4. So the 50 is a little more compression than I typically would do on an A cam. Typically I would shoot my 24 as my A cam, and then the 50 is my B cam. But we're going to shoot the 50 as the A cam because we can go down to 1.4. We can also shoot ND filters on this and go a little lower. And then we're going to use the 70 to 200 as our B cam lens. That way we can shoot and get as much compression as we can possibly get for this. So basically what we're trying to do is just blur and get rid of the background as much as we possibly can. So the next thing we are going to do is look into our lighting. So the most important thing with lighting is to kill all outside lighting other than the ones that are going to be shaped on your subject, so you can start building out your settings. So we've got all of this stuff built out because we're recording a video podcast, so we're going to turn off all of these lights. I've got most of the other lights connected on the Sidus link, so we just shut off all of our other lights. And the very last ones are these overhead lights, and these are the ugliest ones we have. So it's going to go black, boop, and now this is our setting. So now we can start building out our lighting and kind of start working from here. We're going to shut this door to make sure we don't have any spill. And right now this is our light source that we are using. We can only use one light. Didn't I say that at the beginning? Oh, that's what I said. We're gonna do it with one light. So this is our current light source. We're using the grid because we don't want the spill onto the background. That's the main thing. We've got to eliminate any background spill so we don't have that kind of bouncing everywhere throughout the room. It's really hard because we have white walls everywhere, but that's where the use of this softbox is going to be helpful. The only other thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in a white bounce. So we're going to take that light, we're going to try and bounce it off of our person. That way they can have them illuminated and we can try and cut out as much in the background as we possibly can. So we're going to say Cooper is our model today. He's our interviewer. So interviewee, yeah. So right now I have everything kind of set to where it was. I have the camera at f1.4 because I'm trying to get the background blurry. It's doing a pretty good job. It's a little far away, so I'm actually going to get him to scoot up because I want to keep my depth right there. Perfect. I also am putting him in the left third. So he's going to be looking that way. That's going to give us the look that we got. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add an ND on this. So what that ND just did was cut down all of the light in the background for the most part, and now he is illuminated pretty well. What I'm gonna do though, because he's got a pretty harsh, hello. He's got a pretty harsh light on him. I'm gonna turn this light down a little bit, and I'm gonna turn it a little bit, because I'm gonna try and get it not spilling on the background at all. So we were at 59% on this. I'm gonna go down to, I don't know, 45% and see how we are looking. And so now it's like a very, very moody, contrasty setting, and we just need to bring in this bounce card, and I'm gonna kind of look at it and see where it's hitting him, and maybe I'll use the shiny side, give a little more, and that looks significantly better. I'm just gonna back this up and literally just stand it on this. Maybe. Yeah. So look straight, Cooper. And let's check this out in the camera. We get a little bit of bounce. It kind of fills in that opposite side, so it's not just like a straight black fall off. And for us not moving things around, we're doing pretty dang good. Next thing I need to do is raise that key light up just a hair. You can see it in the frame. So it's gonna come up just a hair. And what I'm trying to do is get this key light as close to him as I can possibly get it, because the closer you can get it, the softer the light is. And I believe that's out of frame. Now I just need to shut the back door. So this is what the interview setup kind of came out. We were gonna do audio, but I mean, I am in a warehouse. And then the echo stopped. So like super, super echoey. The only option to have it sound good is a lav. I have a lav on my shirt. It's literally taped in there directly to my sternum right here. And that's gonna help kind of give us almost like a thing to help get rid of some of the echo, and really that's gonna make it sound as good as we can possibly make it. But from an interview setting, this is about as good as we can get with an ugly place. You've got it dark, you've blurred out the background, and this is kind of the best possible option you can get from not moving anything around. One light, one bounce, and that's it. In a perfect world, we'd probably have some sort of hair light to help separate us from the background, but the subject does stand out really, really good, and you can tell when you're looking at this, this is the person that I'm supposed to be looking at. It looks nice and cinematic. You got camera one, you've got camera two, and you have two different cuts that you can do that's gonna make it look nice. So just a quick recap. First thing we did is we looked at our area. We tried to figure out where we had the least amount of clutter in the background, and then we started to get as much depth as we could from the background. Lowered the aperture as much as possible to get as much blur as we possibly could, and used the longer focal lengths on our camera to make sure we got as much compression, which also gives you a blurry background. The next thing we did was turned off all of these lights. We made sure that the lights were completely off so we could put in the lights that we wanted to get them directional. That way we didn't have to worry about anything moving around, and we could get it as black and dark as possible so you can't see anything. The next thing we did is we set up our cameras on the correct angles. We moved them around a little bit. We didn't show it in the shots here, to make sure that when I'm giving this interview look, that it looks good in the camera every single time when we cut from cam A to cam B. And finally, we looked at audio, but our audio was already set up because it was on my chest already for the shot over here for the behind the scenes. And that is it, guys. Those four things are gonna help you take an ugly looking warehouse with overhead lighting to a good looking interview setup that looks cinematic and something you're really proud of to show to your clients. So if you got questions, let me know in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.